welcome back to ATG TV and another edition of Negroes Making Headlines. As of late, a Negro in the headlines is Michael Vick, and I have to say this straight out of the gate. Roger Goodell, you on that bullshit, and you need to quit it. Because I saw your interview that you did about the reinstatement, and you were explaining how Michael Vick would not be allowed to come back for another 6 weeks. Now, this shit is crazy to me. Because I remember when, I think his name was Matt Jones, okay, who was a tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This guy was actually on tape. Police officers was filming. Police officers saw that he was actually cutting up cocaine with the credit card on his dashboard. Okay? He was guilty as all get down. And he was still allowed to continue the season because things were under investigation. But let me tell you something. When Michael Vick was under investigation of what was going on, he was suspended immediately. He couldn't play no games. Okay? And if you look at it, everybody's talking about paying debts to society and whether or not he deserves the right and privileges. Forget all that. Everybody deserves the right to work, period. And since when do we look at athletics, whether it be the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, when do we look at these organizations as a privilege? It's a job. People get paid to do what they do. Because in my opinion, if you've served your prison term, you should be able to participate in any occupation that doesn't have to do with the person's security or well-being as far as like a higher echelon of protection. In other words, if you're a convicted felon, then obviously we don't want you working for the FBI or the CIA, or obviously we really don't want you working for the police department and things of that nature. I mean, come on, okay? But if you've paid your debt to society, you're talking about entertainment. You know, we're talking about these occupations of privilege. No, it's just an occupation. It's just a job. It's a high-paying job because the skill that you have makes a lot of money. And it brings in more money for the corporation as a whole, such as the NHL, NBA, or NFL, or what have you. So my whole thing is, if you have people who are doing drugs, who get caught for shooting people, in other words, convicted felons, they're still able to come out and work in Hollywood. You see? See, because this right here, this is on the same line to me. This is on the same line as substance abuse as far as steroids to me. I should actually do a different video about that. When you're dealing with people who are doing steroids, my whole thing is, well, why not ban them in Hollywood? Or why not ban changing yourself, like physically altering yourself? Because that's cheating. If you're going to be a model, you shouldn't be able to do breast augmentation. You shouldn't be able to do facial reconstruction or any type of liposuction or anything like that. You shouldn't be able to do any of that because that's cheating, right? It's cheating. See, but all those things are allowed in Hollywood. But for whatever reason, it's not allowed in sports. You see? Now, I know there's going to be many facets that a person can argue that point or whatever, and I'll be happy to debate anybody on that issue. But getting back to the point at hand, I remember that Matt Jones, wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I remember when Matt Jones was actually caught having cocaine. He was cutting it up. He was cutting cocaine up on the dashboard with a credit card. Police officers saw that. He was still allowed. Okay? He was still allowed to continue the season. And unfortunately, Michael Vick wasn't offered that same respect. Okay? He wasn't offered that. He was suspended immediately. You know, so the question is, because I'm hearing it in the community. I'm hearing it. What's the deal? Why is person A, who coincidentally is Caucasian persuasion, allowed to get away with certain things, but you got Michael Vick? In other words, we're going to stick this Negro right here. We're gonna use him as a tool to show you ain't nobody getting away with nothing. And I find it weird that Terrell Owens is the only one who was man enough to speak up and say, yo, this ain't right here. You know what I mean? If he's been out of football for 2 years, he's served his time, he's paid his debt to society. Why wouldn't Roger Goodell just say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna suspend him for the 2 years and allow that to run concurrent with what he did when he went to prison and before he went to prison. That way, he can come back, he can make some money, he can support his family, what have you, and he can live like a regular person. So I have an issue with the fact that it's almost like it's like twisting the dagger. You know what I mean? It's like twisting it. He did what he was supposed to do, and it's like, why can't we just forget it? Just forget about it. It was dogs. And I know Peter and all the people are going to be around here, but for real, we got people down in Florida. We got a black guy who was in Florida who was actually beaten down by officers who was at a boot camp. Beaten down. It was 3 of them, and one was actually a brother who beat this guy down. It was a teenager. I think it was like 15 or 16 years old. And then they tried to say, the beating was on tape. And then they tried to say, well, he has sickle cell anemia, so that's why he coincidentally died, that day. It's like, hell no! What about the goddamn beating? Maybe that had something to do with it. Like, that's how crazy things are sometimes. That's crazy. And guess what? A year later, they wound up announcing that they got off. They let the people off. So now you have people can kill a Negro. And it don't mean a damn thing. But then, a Negro fighting and killing dogs, all of a sudden, now that's an issue. Now, you have somebody from the outside looking in, they would say, well, it sounds like a dog's life is more valuable than a Negro's life. Let's believe that. You see? So everything so honky-dory is when you start looking at it like that. Because that's the way I look at things. And the fact that they still trying to punish him. What about the cops at the boot camp? Why haven't they, been disciplined to the point where they get 6 weeks suspension? You understand what I'm saying? You know what? I remember that there was, I think it was on HBO, Real Sports. And Bel Air, I don't know where it's at, could be in New Jersey, but a town called Bel Air. Here was another brother who was just trying to get inside his house, and he was gunned down. He was shot up. He was a baseball player. Now he can't play that no more. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if he's actually paralyzed or if he's just in a wheelchair for a prolonged time. But the point is that what happened to these cops? Nothing happened to them. You see what I'm saying? But Michael Vick, fighting dogs, killing dogs, we're going to suspend this Negro for 6 additional weeks, even after he's paid his debt to society. I would like to see the average Joe who goes to jail and then try to come out and find a job. Because every job is a privilege. You're going to say being in the NBA like Roger Goodell say it's a privilege. Well, every job is a privilege because every job is selecting you. So my whole point is, if a person goes in for a job and then they say, okay, we want to hire you. Okay, we want to hire you. We understand you paid your debt to society, but you know what though? We're going to suspend you for 6 weeks. Can't work for us for 6 weeks. You're going to be like, yo, I've already paid my debt to society. Why are you going to? Oh, well, because it's a privilege to work here at Winn-Dixie. It's a privilege to work here at Walmart. It's a privilege to work here at Sam's Club. You see? We're going to suspend you for 6 weeks. How you like that? That's ridiculous. And anybody that thinks that, because you got people out there that are saying, well, he shouldn't even be allowed back. He shouldn't be allowed back? Why not? Why not? What makes the NFL that big of a deal to where a person, because you disagree with the crime that they did, we're not saying that he didn't serve any time at all. He served his time because you disagree with the crime that he did, or because maybe you don't like his